In this tutorial, we will learn about MCP servers. At first, it might be a little confusing to understand what an MCP server does, but once you get hands-on with a couple of examples, everything really starts to fall into place. We'll run a Hugging Face MCP server so we can connect Claude to Hugging Face's huge library of AI tools. This way, any tools we use will be part of Claude's context, meaning we can reference them and integrate them into our own workflow. We will cover how to test it and how to install it, but first, let's understand what an MCP server is. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. So this is an open source protocol first introduced by Anthropic, the company behind Claude AI. The aim of this protocol is to standardize how applications provide context to LLM. They compare it to a USB-C, and the MCP provides a standardized way to connect AI models to different data sources and tools. So what's important here is tools, because an MCP really exposes the tools available to the LLMs. So here we have a really nice visualization that they made here. So you have your MCP server here. This could be a program or a provider like Blender, and your LLM, which is the host with the MCP client. So by having this MCP server here, it exposes all the tools available from this program to your LLM. So for example, here where let's say it's Blender, so we have tools like create an object, like apply texture. So all of this will be available for our LLM to use. And you can have another MCP server here, and this could be another app like Figma. So the tools here could be how to read the file structure, or like to get the component style. So you could just use this MCP server and only talk to your LLM to get things done here. And for another example here is it could be from the internet. So you have a remote service, could be Google Drive, Google Calendar. So you can have your LLM speak to all your data here through the MCP server. You can ask it to schedule an appointment or download this file to your Google Drive. So it's going to have all this available for its context here. So if now you can see like all the power of the MCP server. You can have multiple providers, and so everything is connected to your LLM, and you can essentially just speak with your LLM to get things done. The LLM is no longer just like a chatbot. It can really now take actions for you for all these apps. So Anthropic also provided some examples for popular languages here. You have Python, TypeScript, and so on. So this is really good. So it shows and explains you how to build the MCP server so that everything is standardized. The whole point of the MCP server is that everything is standardized. Your LLM is not going to have any surprise. It's going to know how to communicate with every app. So before the MCP server, if you wanted your AI to talk to a service, you would have to build a custom connection just for that one thing. So you would imagine that this will take a lot of time and effort. So now that it's standardized, here and here, they communicate the same way in Blender than in Figma, and so with the other programs. One of the biggest problems when building AI tools is that every app or service is different. If you want your AI to pull info from Google Drive, or access someone's local files, or talk to some API, you usually have to build a separate connection for each one. And that's a lot of work, especially when you're working with different tools, languages, or frameworks. That's where the Model Context Protocol comes in. Its main goal is to standardize how AI connects to external stuff. So instead of writing new code every time, developers follow the same structure. It's like everyone agreeing on one common way to talk to the AI. That means once you've set it up, it doesn't really matter what the tool or system is, or what language it's written in. If it supports MCP, it just works. This is super helpful because it makes everything more consistent and predictable. Whether you're using JavaScript, Python, or anything else, if you're following MCP, your AI knows what to expect. And if you're building tools for AI, you can focus on what your server actually does, like getting files, sending data, or doing calculations, instead of reinventing the wheel every time. So yeah, the magic of MCP is in the standard. It keeps everything organized, saves a lot of time, and makes AI way easier to hook up to real-world tools. Alright, so now we're gonna start building our very first MCP server. So we're gonna start with this one, which is made for Hugging Face spaces. So what it does, it connects Claude AI to Hugging Face spaces. So here, for example, we have Claude that uses the Flux model to create an image here. If you've never heard about Hugging Face, so basically it's like a big collection of open source AI models. So if we go to their model page here, you can see all the available models. So here we have DeepSeek. Their latest model, I believe, is 3.1. You have Quen here, another AI from China. And then we have Sesame, the text-to-speech, which is really good in conversation. Mistral, an AI from a French company. So here, Flux 1, that's what the example was showing. And it's not just about LLM. Hugging Face has like all kinds of models that do all kinds of tasks. For example, like this one, it creates vector from images or text. So if you scroll down, you can see the model architecture and how it works under the hood. So this is really good for open source AI research. And inside Hugging Face, we have something called spaces. So basically, spaces is what allows us to test the AI models. And this is what the MCP server that we're going to install is going to leverage. So here you see all the spaces. So basically, this you could all try these models. For example, here LHM, it basically takes a reference image and then a reference motion, and it combines the two. So we can go and click on their project to see their project page and see how it works. So here is, we have their page, and it shows us how it works. We also have some demonstration here. So we have a reference image and the reference motion. It then combines the two into a 3D character here. Here again, you have a reference here with a motion. So it detects the motion here, and it puts the reference image on top of it and creates a 3D model out of it. So it's really good. So you can really see that there's all kinds of models on Hugging Face. So with all these kinds of models available here, all the spaces available, then you can really like see the potential with this MCP server. Claude AI like has access to all of these spaces and basically have so much more potential. So keep in mind that in Hugging Face, if you use model that uses a lot of resources, like for a video, then you're gonna need to have some credit, pay for some credit to test it out. But if you're just using like image generation or like transcriptions, then that's fine. So if you want to test out some video and that's what you want to do, then you can buy some credits for it. So here, for example, we have this Flux model here in this space. So basically what the MCP does is it connects the Claude AI to this space in particular. So we just enter a prompt, and it's gonna generate the image. And Claude AI will have full context of this. So back to our MCP server page here, we can scroll down and see the installation steps. So the first thing you notice here is that we need to install Node.js. So if you don't have it already installed in your system, you can go to their website and just simply choose your operating system, download and install it. So this is essentially a runtime environment for JavaScript, and it comes with NPM, which is a package manager. So once that installed, we can proceed with the next steps. So here it tells us to add this following piece of code to the Claude desktop config JSON file. So every time you want to add a MCP server, you're gonna see this kind of code. So it defines the MCP server. You have the name here, and basically it's a command, so it uses npx to run this package. So all we need to do now is to copy this and paste it into our config file. So now we need to put the code into the config file of Claude. But for this, it's important that you have the desktop app. So this is where you're gonna find all the MCP settings. So make sure to download the Claude app for your operating system. So once you have installed the Claude desktop app, the next step is to configure the desktop config file. So you'll do this pretty much anytime you install a new MCP server. It's how you tell Claude what tools it can access. So to find this config file in the Claude desktop app, go to settings and then into the developer panel. So here, if you've installed any MCP servers before, you'll see them listed here. But if you've never added anything, so you won't see anything here. As you can see, I've installed a Blender MCP already. So, but yours might not have anything if you haven't touched anything here. So you can just click on Edit Config, and that's going to open up the Claude config file folder. So it's going to show you the config file in its folder. And then you can just use any code editor or IDE to edit this file. Alright, so in this config file, in my case, I already have a Blender MCP server set up. So if it's your first time doing this and you haven't installed any server, then your file will be empty, and that's totally fine. So you can just copy and paste the code that was provided in the Hugging Face MCP setup instructions. Make sure to just to keep the MCP servers and just replace the Blender part. So this config file is basically a list. Each item in the list represents one MCP server. So every time you install a new server, you're just adding a new item to the list. This lets Claude know which tools are available and how to talk to them. To add a server, just go to the end of the list and paste the new server code there. And be sure to make sure that the JSON format is correct, the commas, the brackets, all that. Because if you mess something up, then Claude might not be able to load the config file properly. After pasting the code, save the file, and one important step is to restart the Claude desktop app. If you don't do that, then Claude won't know you've added anything and the new server won't show up. And once that's done, once restarted, then you should notice a hammer icon. So you can click on that and it's going to show you all the tools that Claude can access from all the MCP server you've added. So for example, since we added the Hugging Face server, you can see a tool called Available Files. So this one lets Claude know which files are in the working folder for the Hugging Face MCP. It gives Claude some awareness of what's available to work with. So you also see another tool from Hugging Face. It's called Flux. This is to generate the images. So this was included in the Hugging Face base that we installed. So they provided that, but if you don't see it, then you can just go to the actual Flux Hugging Face space and just paste the space URL in the config file that I'm gonna show you later. So if you're like me and you already have like an MCP server installed, then like the Blender one, then you'll see those tools listed too. So all the tools available for that particular MCP or any other MCP that you've installed before. So by default, the current working directory is used to file upload and download. So it's recommended to override this and set a working directory for handling the download and upload of images and any other file that you use with your Hugging Face space. So we can specify that in the config file by giving it like a desired folder path as an argument. So we're gonna paste that right below. And this is where all the output from all the different tools that we're gonna be using and all the downloaded files. And it also serves as a context for the LLM. So Claude's going to be able to come into this folder, and if you mention a file, he's going to be able to look into it and have it as a context. So, and after this, like, make sure to save, and again, don't forget to restart the app every time you make a change to the config file. So now that we have our first tool set up, we can go ahead and try it out. So all you have to do is ask Claude to use Flux to create an image. So that's it. Just type it in plain English. Claude will understand what you're asking and use the right tool for the job without you needing to click around or just run any command yourself. Behind the scene, the AI is actually sending your request over to Hugging Face space. So using the MCP server that we just installed, it takes your prompt, fills out more detailed version of it, and then runs it. So no extra steps needed from your part. Once it's done, Claude saves the image right into your working directory on your computer that you specified earlier. So with just one message, you ask for an image, the AI uses the right tool, creates it, and you got the result saved locally. So really, really nice. This is where you really start to see how powerful the MCP servers are. You don't have to mess with APIs, learn how to run each tool. You just tell your AI what you want and it figures out the rest. And this is just the beginning. So this is like really good for a beginning. As more tools get added and the AI keeps improving, then this setup is going to get more powerful and more useful over time. And as with everything, in a repo, if the repo is maintained, then the better it'll get, and it will probably be more accessible and have better accessibility with other Hugging Face spaces and tools. One of the coolest thing about this whole setup is that everything stays inside Claude. That means any output from any tool you use can automatically become part of the conversation you're having with the AI. Here we can attach the latest image created and have it as a context for a conversation with Claude. We can ask questions related to the actual image that was created on our behalf just a moment earlier. I honestly find this super exciting. This is what it means when talking about agentic workflows. You're not just using AI for one task. It's an ongoing process where the AI helps, it responds, adapts, and it continues on where it left off. It's like working with a smart assistant who remembers everything and uses the right tool at the right time. Right now, we're using image generation as an example, but you can imagine this working with anything: writing, data analysis, design, coding, organizing your text, your notes, so whatever your daily workflow involves. And with thousands of open source AI models available on Hugging Face, there's probably already a tool out there that fits exactly what you need. The MCP setup is still evolving, and as more Hugging Face spaces become compatible, your options are just going to grow. That's why I recommend exploring a few Hugging Face tools that could improve your personal or professional workflows. If you find something useful, try hooking it up to Claude through an MCP server. You might be surprised how much smoother and more powerful your day-to-day tasks become. And it's only gonna get better. So once the image has been created by the tool, you can expand the window to see the full image. In this window, we can see the dimensions, which are 1024 by 1024, along with the actual prompt that Claude gave to the Hugging Face space. This is super helpful because you're not just seeing the end result, you're also getting to see what kind of detailed instructions Claude used behind the scenes. This means you can learn how it thinks, refine your prompt in the future, or tweak things to get even better results next time. It's a nice little peek under the hood, and it helps you understand how the AI is interacting with the tool you set up. Now that we've got our first tool working, let's look at how you can add more Hugging Face spaces to your MCP server setup so Claude can use even more tools. The process is actually really simple. Just like what we did earlier, you just need to add its URL to your config file, right at the bottom of the list to where your other spaces are defined. And the way to get this URL, you just need to go to the Hugging Face space. So once you browse around and look and find a space that you want in your workflow, then you can just go to the space and you will see the URL displayed here. So an even easier method is to just copy the last part of the URL here, and then go back to your config file and paste it at the bottom. So it's as easy as that. So once you have that, you can just save the file and make sure to restart your Claude application so that it knows all the recent tools that are available. So the next tools that we're going to test is Whisper, which is used to transcribe audio. So you can see that we can use our microphone as an input, and the tool can transcribe or translate an audio. There's also an option to have an audio file as an input, and it does the same thing, as well as a YouTube link. So this tool is really useful if you're working with recording or any audio or video. So that's really nice. So you can see that we can use multiple Hugging Face spaces to use the tools that are available. Whatever your workflow needs, then you can just browse and find a tool that can do the job, and you can just copy the URL and have it as a context, so you can just ask Claude to use those tools. And like you see here, I've tested a couple of Hugging Face spaces. Don't be afraid to just add new spaces and see how well it works with Claude. This is the whole point of this MCP server, is to test out the most tools available, the most tools possible. Now that we've finished updating our config file and added the Whisper transcription space, we can go ahead and use it right away. I already placed an audio file in the working directory earlier. It's called audio1.mp3. So all we need to do now is ask Claude something like, use Whisper to transcribe audio1.mp3. That's it. You don't need to upload anything or point it to a URL. Just reference it by name and Claude knows exactly where to look, because everything in the working directory is automatically part of Claude's context. So whether it's an audio file, text file, PDF, whatever you drop into that folder, Claude can see it and use it. You just have to refer it in your message. Once Claude starts processing the request, you'll see it picks up the right tool, the one that we set up for transcription. In this case, it uses the Whisper space from Hugging Face. When it's done, it's gonna give you the transcription right there in the chat as plain text. You didn't have to switch app, convert, format, or do anything complicated. Just one message and it handles the whole thing. This is what makes the whole setup so good. Everything happens inside Claude, from accessing files to running the tools and giving you the result. And because it all stays in context, you can now keep going with the conversation. You could ask Claude to summarize the transcription, translate it, pull out key quotes, or even turn it into a blog post, all without repeating anything or re-uploading files. You could also combine it with File System MCP, which can create files or folder directly on your computer. So you could ask it to have the output saved as a markdown file or a text file locally on your computer. It's honestly amazing. This kind of workflow is exactly what MCP was made for. And it makes working with AI so much more natural and actually helpful. So our next space that we're gonna test out is this one. It's Parler, which is a text-to-speech model. So, well, parler in French means speaking. So I guess that's what's the intended pronunciation. So, parler. So as mentioned, this is a text-to-speech model. So you have a text here. It's going to output an audio file. But what's interesting about this is they have here a description, which is basically a prompt for how you want your audio to be. So if we look at their example here, it says, Laura's voice is monotone yet slightly fast in delivery, with a very close recording that almost has no background noise. So it's essentially just describing how you want your audio to be, the quality, the voice, like the gender. And if you look at their description, you have this was trained on 45,000 hours of English audiobooks. And you also have different speakers here, 34 speakers with that you can choose from. So we can go check out on their page here. On the large model, we have all this available. That's for the top 20 speakers. And we also have a smaller model, the mini model here, with other voices to choose from. And we also have other examples here. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to test it out. We're going to create a text and ask it to transform it into a speech. All right, now let's try something fun. This time we're going to ask Claude to write us a poem and then recite it using an Italian accent. We've already set up the voice tool through MCP, so we're testing if Claude can actually use it to perform the task. So we type in our prompt and wait to see what happens. Claude does write us a really nice poem, but instead of using the voice tool we provided, it just describes the accent, like it tries to write the way an Italian speaker might say the poem, kind of like adding an Italian flavor to the text rather than actually reading it out loud with the tool. Now this kind of thing can happen. MCP setups aren't always perfect yet, and sometimes Claude might not use the tool correctly on the first try, but this is part of working with AI. In cases like this, all you need to do is just give Claude clearer instructions. Now we're going to ask Claude to use the voice tool directly. Right away, you can see that Claude is calling the tool using the text it gave us earlier, since the text is still part of the context. That's one of the really nice things about working with Claude. Everything you said or done in a conversation stays available, so you don't have to repeat yourself. This time, Claude sends the text to the tool with a clear voice style. It specifies an enthusiastic Italian accent with expressive intonation, which means it should sound lively and full of energy, just like a real person performing the poem. It also chooses the large model for better audio quality. Once the process is done, Claude lets us know that the audio file has been saved to our working directory on our computer. That means we can go check that folder and play the audio ourselves to hear the result. It's pretty awesome, one simple prompt, and now we have a fully generated voice recording saved locally. Let's listen to the result.
Ah, my friend, let me recite for you in boiling waters, dancing free spaghetti, pan fusilli 3, with the garlic, basil, olive oil. Ah, the kitchen's heart begins to boil from a nonna's hands to family plate. The simple joy we celebrate, Mama, is a beautiful no.
So that's quite interesting. I like the intonation, the way that the AI speaks. It gives some kind of life to the poem. That's really nice. So with this example, we can really see that how the context is really important here. So Claude created the poem, it wrote the poem, and then it uses that to feed the tool, and it gave us the text to speech, which is just crazy to me. It's really good. And then we have the audio file saved to our working directory. And that's it. We've now gone from setting up an MCP server to connecting to a Hugging Face space to generating audio and all that through simple prompts inside Claude. This kind of setup shows just how powerful things can get when you combine Claude Natural's language understanding with Hugging Face's huge collection of AI tools. Everything stays in context, everything is done with plain language, and the results show up right where you need them. This is just the beginning of what's possible with MCP integration, so go and explore, try different spaces, and start building workflows that feels like you're really having your own personal assistant.